Welcome back. Anyway, been a long year, long and short year. Just kind of going through the basics of it. But shit, we lost some good ones, we gained some good ones, and shit, just one of those years. 2025, here we are. That's how quick it goes. I'm sure most of us, that are out there competing in the masters category are realizing, geez, we're not 19 to 27-year-olds anymore. And it's just going faster and faster. But anyway, I'm just glad to say that, dealing with all the politics in the sport, still being supported a little bit. So Race Inc., I got one of their last 22-inch top tube 20-inch frames. And like I've mentioned, I'm probably going to be switching to cruiser, probably sometime sooner than not, and it's just hard to find anyone over 50 riding at a competitive level on a 20-inch. I go to the local track and they got 2 groups of cruiser and there's 3 guys for 20-inch. And I just drove an hour and a half. It's just not worth it. So you either join the group or you sit at home. So I want to join the group. So my next build will probably be a cruiser. It won't be something this trick. This is kind of like my Ferrari build, Masters build. We also have the original here, so this is a shorter top tube. I went more with a 90s top tube, 20.5, but I found that building it, I had to run the bars a little bit forward, and we all kind of did that in the 90s or late 80s. You kind of rolled your bars forward, and it just didn't feel right on this type of bike. You don't have to do that on these type of bikes when you can pretty much micro adjust them, based on having a proper stem length and top tube length. And after riding a couple people's bikes with 22-inch top tubes, I realized that you go with the longer top tube with a 49 millimeter stem. This has a 55. So you go shorter stem, and then you can run the handlebars literally in the most neutral position possible. And it's a very comfortable feel, especially on a 20-inch. So it technically makes your 20-inch feel like a cruiser. So longer top tube, shorter stem, bars in a neutral position, and you're good to go. You have your training seat post for your street rides. It ends up being a great build. So anyway, nothing special about this frame other than that, it's obviously modern. It's UCI spec, meaning super stiff, low and long, designed to manual, anything that's capable of being manual, jumped or scrubbed or whatever they want to call it. So I just always wanted to be current. I didn't want to go out of the sport saying I didn't try, quote, the best. And, there's no difference really between this frame and the Sendent frame. The Sendent frame, they filled in the gusset, but other than that, it's the same frame, same angles. I've been told by the best that it's the same bike. So little different dropouts in the back just to get around patents. So yeah, so that's what's going on for 2026, scaling everything down and, going with the 22-inch top tube on this one, and we'll see what happens. So anyway, interesting season. So a lot of people have asked about, how come you didn't do the nationals, this, that, and the other. Well, as most people know, there's no support in the sport financially. And trying to be a masters athlete and get, someone to throw you 50 grand so you can go to 9 USA BMX events, to get a trophy at the end of the year and say that, hey, I'm the fastest masters racer out there, it doesn't translate into sales. And that's kind of the biggest thing going on in the sport. And also with the controversy with the 6-time ABA #1 pro. Okay, he's out of a sponsorship. Well, basically, he raced himself out of a deal. You know what I mean? The sport doesn't have any money in it right now, and he doesn't have any corporate backing. And you have a company called Chase, that has all these up-and-coming amateurs that'll ride for, McDonald's. And then you have this pro who, no one walks into a bike shop and goes, oh, hey, I want the same bike that guy, the French guy has. For one, he's not an American. He doesn't speak English well enough to be like any kind of American BMX character. He has no social media presence. He doesn't sell product. So he's lucky that he got 12 years out of that company, but I'm sure they're glad that they're not paying him $12,000 a month anymore, and they can put that towards some development riders, or maybe even take some of that money and actually build a team. I don't understand why they don't have a team. But anyway, things being said, there's no money in the sport, and it doesn't pay for me to spend $2,500 out of my own pocket to go to the Grand Nationals to race Ronaldo Silva. You see what I mean? I'll wait for Ronaldo Silva to come here and race me in Bakersfield. It's a 5-hour drive and it's about a third of the cost. So that's just where I'm at in the sport. I have, people say nothing to prove kind of thing. I don't really like saying that, but the point is, the travel expenses versus the reward isn't there anymore. And a lot of people just don't understand that. Winning doesn't mean what it used to mean back in the day. So I'm better off staying home. So in conclusion, I raced the state races, the double pointers and the triple pointers around my house. And, it was great. It's the big fish in the small pond. I'm still racing 90% of the guys that go to all the nationals. So I know that my speed is where it needs to be. So that's where I'm at. And so this is going to be another season coming up, 2026, and I'm going to do the same thing. So if things go my way, I'm going to go to the Bakersfield National in May. In September, I'm going to go to the Frogtown Old School Flat Pedal, finals. And then in November, I'll go to the Grand Nationals. So 3 big races if things work out. But in between those 3 big races, if I'm able to even go, I'm going to do all the local races. And that's what's up. You know what I mean? Sometimes we forget where we came from. So, I'll be doing, once again, the local Napa, Donnie Robinson's track, and Nick Valencia's track in Morgan Hill, and, et cetera, et cetera. So that's what I'm looking forward to. It feels good to be the local guy kind of again. And we had a local guy when I was growing up. His name was Frank Post. He was one of the first world champions in BMX back in 92 or 93. And he was a NorCal legend. He's still around. He chooses not to race. But yeah, Frank Post. He was the older pro when I was a kid. Like when I was 10 expert, he was already like a 20-year-old dude. Beard and mustache, and pretty much just how kids are today. But back then it was like, whoa, man, that guy's like crazy. Like, whoa, he's a pro. So I'm that guy now. So I'm the older guy. I'm the vet. I'm the whatever they see me as. And so it feels good to be able to represent on that level when a 10 expert comes up to me, and says, hey, where should I put my pedal or whatever. So we'll see where things go. And once again, it was a good 2025 year, 2025 overall, healthy wise. I think it's knock on wood. It's the first year I didn't hurt myself. And just minor stuff. I mean, dude, every year it's been something. My ankle, my foot, my knee. I broke 2 ribs. Then I blew my shoulder out. And then dude, it was just one thing after another. It's like every time I got going on a good path or rhythm or felt like, ooh, yeah, now's the time, I would tweak something. And like I said, I didn't break anything. I didn't sprain anything. There were tweaks. And once you become a master's rider, a tweak is everything. Like if you tweak your back, you're probably not going to go do gate starts on Friday night. You tweaked your back. You got to let it rest. That could be 4 days. It could be 6 days. It could be 2 months. And all you did was sleep wrong or whatever. You're just dicking around and you're like, I don't know, man. I'm not sure what I did, but I tweaked my back or I did this or I did that. So I went through probably the last 3 seasons, with shit fucking tweaked. And so this is the first year I didn't, and too bad I wasn't able to take advantage of going to nationals. But like I said, what it costs to go to a national these days is like a fucking vacation to Hawaii, and it's just not worth it. That's all I can say. So the goal is to maybe go to 3 races, not 9 races, and then once again go to the ones around the house. So we had some deaths this year. NorCal finally got hit with its little death cycle. So we had Alan Porter, who rode for Kurihara back in the early 2000s. He was one of the last kind of NorCal factory guys to get a reputable ride, Kurihara. And I'm not sure who put that team together, but it was Kurihara's last little ditch at the sport of BMX prior to the first round of Olympics. So this is probably 2004, 2005. I'm not sure when Alan was on the team, but Alan Porter, Kurihara, and then most recently Rob Carnahan. So he was the bike shop owner at Calabasas Cyclery. And also him and Cecil built Calabasas Bike Park, back in 1983. So anyway, what happened to Carnahan? Well, he found out he had cancer about 3 years ago and just basically didn't deal with it. And he put on a bunch of weight and got depressed and, poor me, and just kept working and just, dude, he didn't manage it. And he missed a lot of doctor's appointments, that I'm even aware of. You'd go, oh, dude, I missed my appointment. This guy came in and I needed to fucking sell him a bunch of parts. And, and next thing you know, by the time he goes in, they're like, oh, dude, your prostate's fucking blown out, dude. So his prostate swelled up and his kidneys failed. And, yeah, he just kind of backed up like a toilet. And, he fucking died in the hospital before he even had the surgery. So that was my concern. I was like, fuck, dude, how did he die in the hospital when he's being monitored? So the answer is his kidneys failed and there wasn't much they could do for him. But, I don't know. It just seems like there's a machine for everything. So I almost feel like someone wasn't watching him, or he was left unattended, or something happened. I mean, I don't know how he died with, a nurse right there. So who knows? But it's just sad, he died 7 days after his birthday, which was November of this year, 2025. So rest in peace, Robert Carnahan, Calabasas Cyclery and Dirt Park, and Alan Porter, Kurahara Bikes, NorCal. So rest in peace, everyone. And on the Los Angeles side, they had Mike Redmond, which was about 2 years ago, but still. And then most recently was the Jeff Botima, who invented the Botima crossover forks. So they were the first forks you could use for dirt jumping and racing, Botima forks. So anyway, I guess we'll sign off there. Obviously I don't do anything scripted and I don't really know what else to say at this point. So Happy New Year. This is just kind of the end of the year wrap. And I watch a lot of everyone's podcasts and stuff, so I know what's going on out there. I know what people are talking about. And I think what the podcasts need to focus on is how they're going to bring in the younger audience, because we're just entertaining the same, 800 people, about the same shit, 1983 to 1990. You see what I mean? It's really getting stale. And it's just, oh yeah, man, ha ha ha. I used to run the Carlisle Aggressor tire too, yeah, ha 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 ha. Yeah, I had FMF stickers, ha 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 ha. If you look at your demographic, okay, I guarantee you don't have anyone under the age of 40 viewing your platform. And that's what I had to understand for myself. So I realized that I wasn't as cool as I think I am when I'm only catering to a bunch of dudes sitting on the couch with a beer between their laps and between their legs, going, yeah, right on, Tanette. Yeah, I remember Tanette watching him power wheelie out of a corner back in 1990 in Evansville, Indiana. You know what I mean? It's great to have that guy as a fan, but I'd much rather have his 17-year-old son think I'm cool and turn me on to like those other 17-year-olds that are like, yeah, this dude's old school, he's cool. That's not happening for any of us. And I mentioned that to Mike Miranda and stuff, and I was like, okay, so what's next? Because the way all these, quote, old school podcasts are going, it's dying as fast as it got started, and no one wants to recognize that. So just a heads up to all the guys that, that are thinking that old school is here forever and it's here to stay. It's not. It's going to get whittled down to maybe 3 dudes that are like, got it figured out, and the rest of the people are just going to fall to the wayside, because right now it's really like a bunch of 50-year-old guys chewing gum, talking about the same fucking Webco and FMF and DG, and you know what I mean? We gotta move forward, or bring in the younger kids and get their perspective on old school. You know what I mean? No one brings on anyone under the age of 30, and so it says a lot that we're not crossing over. In motocross they've crossed over. In drag racing, car racing, golf, everyone crosses over. Tiger Woods has just as much to say to 75-year-old Jack Nicklaus as Jack Nicklaus has to say to Tiger Woods. But in BMX, it just doesn't seem to be like that. It's like, oh, they're old school and we're new school, and no one's crossing over. So anyway, just a heads up to all these old school podcasters that are, literally killing it, but not realizing that there's no future in it, because we're not bringing in the under 30 people to give their side of the story on how they feel about old school. and that would give you another 2 to 4 years, you know. But once again, you got to recruit that, and I don't even think they know the history of the sport, and that's another sad thing. They can tell you how many home runs Barry Bonds hit, but they can't tell you how many number ones Stu Thompson has. So anyway, we'll see you. It's been a great 2025 season, and we'll be back, and we'll have this thing built up, and we'll shoot videos when we get a chance. So all right, we'll see you.